Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm your host Rafae Iqbal, and today we'll be talking about the American elections. Today is the 5th of November, and as we've been covering since the past few days, today is the day the Americans go to polls, the day they cast their ballots. We know polling stations have started opening up across the United States of America, and we know the people have started getting in lines as well to cast their ballots. If we talk about the candidates in this race, it's the Republican Donald Trump versus the Democrat Vice President Kamala Harris. And it's a neck-on-neck contest from what the poll surveys are suggesting. The ratios, they kept going up and down, but what we saw, it was a very tightly contested race. And of course, the poll surveys, they're also subject to margin of error. What it's coming down to right now, as all the analysts have been talking about, the 7 battleground states, the key states, the swing states that will actually be determining who's going to have a lead in this race. And of course, the undecided voters, they're also going to play a very significant contribution in deciding who's going to be sitting in the Oval Office. Domestic factors such as immigration, economy and women's rights have also been the highlights of both the candidates' campaigns. We saw these issues being raised and talked about in the key battleground states as well from both the candidates. And of course, there were promises made to the masses regarding the solutions for these concerns as well. But what we're seeing different in these elections is foreign policy also having weight in these elections, as we know that America saw its own version of the Arab Spring with regards to the university protest as people came out in support of the Palestinians and against the Israeli atrocities. The American society stands polarized at the moment with regards to the 5th of November elections that are happening today. And we also know the Muslim Americans, they are going to be considering this factor in deciding who they're going to be voting for. The other factors, such as internet and social media, are also playing an important role in shaping up the voters' minds and opinions. As we know, the voter sentiments and the momentum that is on social media, there's going to be a lot of first-generation voters as well. Generation Z is going to be voting. This is going to be the first time a lot of them are casting their ballots, and we know how this generation relies on internet and social media for information as well, and they're also going to be playing an important part in shaping up the voters' opinions. We'll be deliberating on all the different aspects regarding the American elections. Of course, today is the day the Americans are going to cast their ballots. In the studios, we've been joined by former Ambassador Ms. Naela Chohan, and we've also been joined by Dr. Munawar Hussain, Foreign Affairs expert. Thank you both for your time and being part of the conversation. On Skype, we'll also be joined by Beena Sarwar, who is an editor at Sapan News Network. We'll move towards our conversation in detail, but before that, our anchor person in New York, Jawad Tehami, is giving us the updates regarding the American elections as he's in the United States to give us the on-field updates regarding the situation there. And as he's been updating us since the past few days as well, let's see what he has for us today.
Very warm welcome to the special segment of Views on News regarding the U.S. presidential elections 2024. And I'm honored and really privileged to be joined by a wonderful guest today for this special segment. He's none other than Mr. Jawad Tehami. He is the founder of the American Muslims for Trump. He is also the chief executive officer of the Center for Social Change. So without wasting a further moment, let's get into conversation as to what he is expecting this time around. Very short time is left as far as the final round on 5th of November 2024 for this presidential election. In fact, very hotly contested presidential election is concerned. Mr. Jawad Tehami, thank you very much for your time, for being with us exclusively at Views on News for PTV World.
My pleasure, and thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your segment.
It's really an honor. So right away, that very question that is popping up right into the mind of everybody, that who is going to take this particular race to the White House?
If you see what is going on in the world is practically burning. The new wars are there. Supply chain hasn't been restored yet. Inflation is an international phenomenon, especially in the US as well. So under the given circumstances, it's almost impossible for Democrats to win the House. The reason, how is it possible that the Kamala Harris can distance herself from the Joe Biden's last 4 years of disaster? She is trying her best. She is saying that she will open up a new chapter. She will do this, but she's still part of the administration, and that I think that's a big question, and people are asking everywhere. Let me give you an example. She has been last 4 rallies. When she went there, the people were heckling regarding Gaza, and here one of the swing states is Michigan, and 52% of the Muslims they have endorsed Donald Trump, because here Donald Trump has been people call him he's a peace president. He's not a war president because his 4 years the world was very peaceful.
Okay, so there is a perception we've known for a fact that this particular state that you've just mentioned, Michigan, happens to be one of those 7 swing states. You've already mentioned that a considerable population over there are Muslims and Arabs, right? And with the situation in Gaza since 7th of October back in 2023, so there's been an endorsement on the part of those Muslims for former President Donald Trump. But we saw when the incumbent Vice President Kamala Harris went over there, she urged the youth to turn the page over on fear and divisiveness. And she has also assured them that she is going to bring in benefits as far as education sector is concerned and the federal jobs is concerned. Do you think that particular message would resonate with the youth over there in Michigan in particular?
She has been targeting her age. She has been telling people, the way I laugh, I bring joy to the people. But I think joy is not enough. People, when they go to the pump, when they go to the grocery store, especially the morale is down, Pentagon is demoralized. Police does not exist because she's the founder of Defunding Police. And she has, people have many other concerns right now. If you see most of the big cities like Chicago, Baltimore, New York, Los Angeles, they are almost like they look like a Gaza. You hardly can pass through it because police is demoralized. And not only this, the policy of Obama self-policing is not working. Their ideal is a democratic socialism, the model. They bring it from the Denmark, Sweden, and the other countries, Norway. But those are small European countries. American urbanization, American is a completely different country, and it can't afford some fictional experiment.
Okay, so as far as Kamala Harris's chances are concerned, of course, you're of the view that Donald Trump holds maximum chances to make this race through to the White House. But don't you think after the incumbent president, Joe Biden, relinquished that candidacy for this time around, Democrats got a little bit of momentum as far as Kamala Harris when she came in?
Matter of fact, she was the weak vice president. If you see it, her vice presidency was not popular. She was the border czar, but she hasn't gone to the border single time. And not only this, I wanted to ask you, Biden, a lot of times Donald Trump said that she got to this position by a political coup, because the coup is meaning she did not go through the primary process. And plus, she got all the funding which Biden collected it for his mandate and his policies, and that money was given to her. So the people of America did not get a chance to vet her properly to see what the Kamala Harris is. So I believe it's not fair with Donald Trump, but let's see what happens.
Okay, so fingers crossed. Let's see. Americans very enthusiastic to see the new president and the 47th president of the United States of America. If that's the case, Mr. Farad, as you have just elaborated quite in detail, we saw that first presidential debate between President Donald Trump and President Joe Biden. Of course, the world knows it was quite a dismal performance on the part of the incumbent President Joe Biden. But as far as the second presidential debate is concerned, so there was a perception that the people started thinking that in the second presidential debate, it was Kamala Harris that was actually leading with confidence, and it was perhaps Donald Trump on a little bit of back footing. So that's why perhaps his campaign didn't accept the second presidential debate against Kamala. What's your understanding?
My understanding is that debate was disaster because 3 Democrats versus Donald Trump. Because the 2 moderators, they were leaning towards Democrat Party as well. You have seen the big proof of this is they already fact checked before even then he gave an answer, and there was not a single fact check towards with Kamala Harris. And plus, at the same time, they were asking to have a second debate on Kamala Harris terms. That was the thing. And plus, that it was very close to the election. So to me, I think this is a misconception that he lost the election or he lost the debate or he was scared from the debate, but I don't think so. He has been very vocal. And not only this, this is a new election. Many things are happening new. This is a first election where the presidential candidate had a murder attempts twice, not even then once or twice.
And how do you, very important point that you just brought up, twice the murder attempts on the life of the former president. One was very close. He's
150 yards.
Yeah. And the one that just passed through the ear of the former president, how bigger an impetus do you think that particular incident or those particular incidents actually added an impetus to the campaign, overall electoral campaign of former President Donald Trump?
Two questions arises from that. Number one question was this: how incompetent the federal government is, that they cannot protect their presidential candidate, who's not a presidential candidate, he's an ex-president. How incompetent they are, number one. And second thing is this: how important it is to get rid of Donald Trump. How big deal it is that if he wins the election. So he got the sympathy votes. And third thing is this: their intelligence flavor that they were sharing. Second attempt was done at the golf course, and the gentleman was waiting for the president from 12 hours sitting nearby the green. Who leaked the schedule? That is a big question. Matter of fact, that's a big answerable thing from the sitting Kamala Harris administration.
But after the first incident, we saw some resignations happening also. Right?
Matter of fact, most of the Republican legislators twisted the arm to get the resignation. Otherwise, they were not willing to do it. And plus, here again, this one question comes in my mind: if the Biden cannot run for the office, but who's running the country then? That's a big question. If I ask some of my Democrat viewers right now, where is Biden? Either he's in somewhere in the basement, or either he is on some beach. We hardly see either he exists.
There was a statement that was made by Kamala Harris a couple of days before. She said that when she enters into presidency, goes to the White House, she has got a to-do list. But on the other hand, former President Donald Trump has got an enemies list. He's so fixated on himself, and he's got grievances. How do you look at that? The difference, the comparison of two lists, calling herself, having a list of to-do, and the former president having an enemy list.
Let me give you a situation. Let me give you an example of the situation. 3 years, Department of Justice was sleeping. Democracy was sleeping. Everything was fine. The minute Donald Trump declared his candidacy, 90 charges, more than Al Capone. They were charged, and where? The state of their choice, attorney general of their choice, jury of their choice, judge of their choice, Department of Justice. And then not only this, raid on Mar-a-Lago on his residence. And now they are complaining that Donald Trump will go, they will hunt for enemies, when they are already doing it. And not only this, I want to give you an example. Biden, Mr. Biden, Mr. President, call us homegrown terrorists. When you call your own citizen homegrown terrorist, what kind of justification you have? A Republican, being a part of a Republican Party is a political opinion.
Okay, so there are certain strong statements and strong words which were used by former President Donald Trump during the election campaign as well. What about that?
No, the thing is this here, if you personally ask me, I'm living here in this country since last 36 years. Division in between, racial division in this country started during the Barack Obama period. African Americans, they are part of the 14 to 16% of the population. He became president, and this was his desire. That every department in this country has to be run and operated by an African American, and he did. For majority of the people, he oppressed and suppressed them for 8 years. Donald Trump was not a politician. He never had, he was never a councilman. He was not a congressman. And this is what you get. And so you tell me who started this racial profiling or racial division? It was Barack Hussain Obama. It was not Donald Trump.
So why then immigration remains to be the key issue that we have seen former President Donald Trump focusing on?
Matter of fact, I'm a big fan of this question. We believe in the people should come from the front door instead of jumping the wall. Number one, we cannot be against immigration, but we are against the crimes. Crossing a border is a crime. And plus, at the same time, we believe it, as a Republican, we believe whoever comes into this country, he has to respect American values and culture. If you are coming with some malintentions, you're not supposed to be here.
Right. So what happens to be the second biggest issue President Trump will look after once he becomes the president in that case?
First one will be the wars. The second will be deporting 21 million illegal criminal immigrants.
Okay, so war, when we talk about the situation globally that has developed from last couple of years, we have seen that crisis in Ukraine as well, and the kind of situations that has particularly developed, which you already mentioned in your take earlier as well, in Gaza. Rather than the containment of that particular situation in Gaza, going towards a ceasefire, there's been an expansion towards Lebanon, towards Iran, towards the southern side as well. So, I mean, what is former President Donald Trump going to do differently on this particular front?
Biggest difference in between Biden-Harris administration and Donald Trump's take on the war, he achieved the same targets, same objectives of war with sanctions, with tariff and embargoes. Okay. And that was working when he was a president. Ukraine is $295 billion given to them, and it is not an American war. It's a European war. And the thing is this now, Donald Trump is not in a favor of just doing a favor, being a policeman for free. Our own infrastructure is crippling. I landed on a Dulles airport from Doha yesterday, and believe me, I felt like I have come 100 years behind. I want to ask the question to the Democrats. When was the last new airport was built in this country? When was the last highway was built in this country? Washington, D.C., we are sitting here almost 30 minutes away from Washington, D.C. There 495, the Beltway is notorious in this country. Every Washingtonian sits in that traffic 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon. And what is that? Where we stand at? Why? Matter of fact, not only this, the final thing on this wars in Afghanistan, that we came to know that they were ghost soldiers. Ghost soldiers. Now we are coming across, now they have a ghost bombs and missiles.
So when we talk about how former President Donald Trump is going to deal with this situation, especially when we talk about the situation in Gaza, do you think after he becomes the president, the situation over there is going to come under control right away, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his regime and his forces are going to stop right away there?
There's no magic wand. I believe that the minute he takes over, the next minute is going to be over. But he has ability. He's unpredictable. He's not predictable. And plus, he's a leader. He's a statesman. To me, as personally, he has said many times in his speeches that I want Israel to complete the operation and go back. So three things if he try to control, and then he has to put some leashes on the NATO. Because NATO and other countries have not been pitching in the way they're supposed to, and they imagine about it. This is a European war, and they're still dealing with Russia. They are getting some energy in Europe. So the thing is this: he has to tell them, this is your war, and you better step up.
One last very important question: when it comes to the bilateral relationship of Pakistan with the United States of America, we've known for a fact, the entire world knows for a fact, that Pakistan has suffered huge. As far as Pakistan being the frontline ally in the war on terror is concerned, Pakistan's economy has been with disasters back to back. We saw that those floods back in 2022 of biblical proportions. Also, the economy suffering to a great extent. How do you think that bilateral relationship is going to be affected? In what ways with either of the two candidates, whoever comes into power?
He will revisit the foreign policy. And when you see the foreign policy, you start looking at the interests of your allies. Pakistan has a wonderful relationship with the U.S. since 1947. All the defense contracts, all the F-16 Abraham tanks, and not only this, all of our top brass is trained by the American Army. So the thing is this relationship will further up. Donald Trump is a businessman. New trade opportunities will be offered to Pakistan, and I'm looking forward to have a new chapter.
Right. Mr. Sajid Tarar, thank you very much for being with us exclusively on Views on News at PTV World. We really appreciate that. I am present over here in Maryland State, and I was joined by a wonderful guest, Mr. Sajid Tarar, who happens to be the founder of the American Muslims for Trump and Chief Executive Officer of the Center for Social Change. Once again, it was an honor being with you and you having me over here for this very exclusive talk.
Thank you so much, and looking forward. Pakistan Zindabad.
Well, you just heard Jawad Tehami in conversation with Sajid Tarar. Now, coming back to the studios and coming back to our conversation regarding American elections as well. Moving towards Beena Sarwar, editor of Sapan News Network, who's joined us on Skype. Thank you for your time and being part of the conversation. Moving quickly towards the polls, of course, both the candidates had their share of their campaigns. Of course, they campaigned very vigorously in the key states as well and all over America. What's your analysis on the campaigns by both the candidates?
Sorry. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on, and it was very interesting to hear Sajid Tara talk about Muslims for Trump and just his. I don't know. I would like to talk a little bit about that actually.
Right. Please do ahead.
Well, I mean, I think that anyone right now, anyone who thinks, I mean, I know Sajid Tara Saab, of course, and respect him. He's, very respected community leader. But for those who say that Muslims voting for Trump, it's like a kind of it's to punish the Democratic Party. And if you're doing it to punish the Democratic Party, you're in the end, long run, punishing the Muslims of America and the brown people of America, because Trump has very clearly said he is not pro-brown person at all. He is for mass deportations. He is for using the police on dissenting citizens in America. And his ideology is very frankly fascist, as his own top senior government level officials who have worked with him and the senior most levels of government have said that about him. So, I mean, to cotton wool around Trump and think that he's going to be good for brown people, for Muslims, for the Muslim world is frankly, I think, quite delusional.
Right, and how do you compare that of Trump's campaign with that of Kamala Harris's campaign?
I mean, I don't think that either of them are particularly good for brown people or for Muslim people, but I think that if you look at if you compare on balance, for many it's the lesser of the Harris campaign is the lesser of two evils, and for many it is she's actually a good candidate. And I know many people who are voting for third-party candidates because they cannot bring themselves to vote for either of these two.
Well, Ms. Beena Sarwar, of course, that's a very important point that you raised. I'd like to include Ms. Naela Chohan in the conversation as well with regards to her views. Ma'am Naela, as we know, the American politics and how the voters' sentiment shaped up, it mainly focused on the domestic factors with regards to American politics. This time we know America had witnessed its own version of the Arab Spring with regards to the university protests. And we know the American Muslims, they are going to be considering foreign policy as a major weight in deciding who they're going to be voting for as well. What's your analysis on the whole situation, and how would you comment on this issue of foreign policy having weight in these elections, because it's not, as we're seeing, orthodox in American elections?
Well, I tend to agree with Beena Sarwar that either of the candidates, there are certain issues on which there is a bipartisan support. For example, Israel. Neither the Democrats nor the Republicans are going to change their foreign policy vis-a-vis Israel. Consequently, the situation of Palestine is not going to improve in this way. So I agree that those who expect that either or of the candidates will make any changes in it, it's unlikely. The other things that need to be considered are the wars, like Ukraine war. Trump has said that he would stop Ukraine war. That has created tremors in EU countries because Trump also does not support NATO. So the collective security concept that evolved in Europe in alliance with the United States of America would be, not a sure situation. Climate change. Now, Pakistan and USA have a collaboration during the Biden government that it's called Green Umbrella, in which they were giving us support for the climate change victims.
Right.
It's unlikely that in case Mr. Trump comes, that would continue. Similarly, when it comes to defense aid, because Trump says he's against war, against supporting defense and all that, it's unlikely that that aid will continue. Then if you talk about tariffs, then again, your major, export destination is United States. so your exports will be affected. So as far as Pakistan is concerned, I think we have to look at it very carefully, and there are pros and cons in both sides. It's important to further strengthen our relations with United States, and after the elections and post, electoral college decision, we will know in January who the head of the state will be, and let's keep our fingers crossed.
Right, and Ms. Naela, as you talked about a lot of points, do you think there's the approach both the candidates are going to be having with regards to the international trade as well? As we know, there's two major powers in the world with regards to being the economic powers. Do you think there's going to be a change of approach between both the two when they go for economy and trade activities?
Definitely, there will be an impact on that. WTO is an important body, but if during former Trump regime they had more protectionist approach, if they continue with it in case he is re-elected, that will be detrimental to world trade. In Pakistan's context, definitely. As far as the Biden government is concerned, they are not as protectionist, but of course they too have their reservations, and then the China-USA rivalry. That also we have to see how it will play, because you remember Nancy Pelosi had gone to Taiwan, and subsequently, although USA states that they believe in one China policy, but they also have strategic ambiguity when it comes to their policy towards China. So that will also have impact on the region, on BRI, on how the regional countries work together for economic cooperation.
Right, definitely. I'd like to include Dr. Munawar Hussain in the conversation as well. As firstly, I'd like to thank you for waiting so patiently. Secondly, when we talk about the American elections, of course, as Ms. Naela also mentioned, and as we've also been seeing globally, as in seen in the UK elections as well, there's the political trends in different countries. They're changing now in this modern era. How would you comment on all this situation, this dynamism that we're seeing in the political atmospheres, and not just in one country, but throughout the world, and specifically with regards to the US?
As far as West is concerned, the new trend that I am observing is a declining democracy. And I'm not saying this, there is a very famous book written by Noam Chomsky, Who Rules the World, published in 2016. He believes that since 1945, democracy in America and the West is in a declining position. And the major argument that he has given is that the lower cadre of society has no say in policy making. Because the basic assumption of democracy is that people through vote, they take part in policy making. Now, who makes the policy? The powerful person. For instance, in the case of electoral politics in the United States of America, Elon Musk is financing President Trump, and another very powerful person who is the owner, Bill Gates. He is financing the Democrats' candidate, you see. So therefore, the powerful segment in American society is playing the shot, and they are taking part in the policy making. One, traditionally, if you see, American society never gave a vote to the woman candidate as a president, because American society is a traditional society, especially their villages. I'm not talking about the metropolitan cities. An example is that Hillary Clinton was very powerful and very popular political leader, but she could not be the president. Second important trend was that they never gave vote to the party who remains in power, because they believe that for longer period of time, if you are in power, you would be corrupt. Except if you have an extraordinary performance, like in the case of Bill Clinton, he developed American economy, he started the process of globalization, he left positive budget reserves. And for the first time it happened in the history of, similarly President Reagan, because he won the Cold War, and Obama, because he bridged the gap between the Muslim world and the Western world. So therefore, they got chosen again. Third important trend is that domestic issues always got the priority in the American electoral politics, whether it is immigration, inflation, healthcare, abortion, so on and so forth. Fourth, that always Americans, they give preference to the Anglo-Saxon race because of their manifest destiny and Darwinian theory. I would not go into detail, but I'm just giving some clues. Fifth, Democrats always has a more chance to have a presidency than the Republicans. If you see, out of 46 presidents, 27 times Democrats, they won the seat, and only 19 times Republicans, they got the seat. Last, the religious vote. Now, Catholics, they have 5 crore, 20 lakh registered vote. And since President Trump is conservative, so, I mean, this is the traditional trends. But what is changed in the trend? Number one, women card. And the women card is very important, and they are in favor of Kamala Harris. So it may bring a change, one. Second, new voters, which is about 8 million, and usually they are immigrants, new immigrants, and they are settled in the swing states. Third, youth vote, which is about 42 million.
Dr. Munawar, exactly as you mentioned the youth, there was one question that was coming to my mind, and sorry for cutting you here, but do you think internet, and we know in this era, this digital era, artificial intelligence, it is dominating in all spheres of life, and do you think this inclusion in the poll surveys and these social media trends, the internet having a lot of weight on voter sentiments and trends, do you think it is dangerous or could prove to be dangerous for democracy? As algorithms, we know that the kind of content that we see once, it starts supporting and suggesting us similar content. Do you think in these times of artificial intelligence, algorithms and data, the internet could prove dangerous for democracy?
A very, very sensitive question, frankly speaking. We find a common trend in democracies, the popular politics. In the case of Modi India, you observed the role of the social media, and Modi exploited it, which is known as a Goody media. But now question is, did Modi successful in getting 400 plus seats? Up ki par, 400 par? They failed. So therefore now, what is problem in America? The flood in North Carolina and Florida, the war in Gaza, and the war in Ukraine, where America spent something like $196 billion. And similarly, the declining American economic position, which is $37 trillion, America is under debt, which is 26% of their GDP. 8 million American people, they have went below the poverty line. 18 million can't afford health care. And half of the population, they can't give the mortgage to their shelters. These are the issues due to which I fear that Democrats would have a chance to come into power. So these are different trends. And one more is popular politics. This is very important thing, because America, popular politics is always based on sensitivities of the people and the sense of deprivations. The issues which are in American society at this moment, which I mentioned earlier, and the powerful segment in American society. I gave example of Bill Gates and Elon Musk. So these are trending, you see, changing trends in American politics. The challenge, the serious challenge to American political system is this political system has redundant now, because the candidates that it has offered are not the public choice. One. Second, I believe that first time in the history of American electoral politics, the election commission is questioned, and the mindset are prepared that, look, if President Trump would not win, it means there is it would be rigged elections, and that would create instability in America. And I fear what happened in 2020 when Capitol Hill was attacked. So this can be repeated again, and there would be instability in America. And another challenge that I believe that American society is polarized now. It is no more cohesive. It is divided into colored, Anglo-Saxon people, liberals and conservatives, Arabs and non-Arabs, Muslims and Christians. So it is for the first time which I am observing in American society that it is divided. It is not like a salad bowl in the past.
Yeah, definitely. Dr. Munawar, that's of course very crucial challenges that you raised, and of course these are the challenges that are being seen from the offset as well with regards to this election in particular. Ms. Beena Sarwar, as we're running short on time as well, quickly coming towards you, the swing states, the key swing states as the battleground states and the undecided voters, as all the analysts are pointing towards them. What's your take on that? Who's going to be wooing these undecided voters and these key swing states?
Well, thank you, yes, for that question. And I want to just say that I really appreciate the previous two speakers, spoke a lot of sense and gave a lot of really important information. And I completely agree that the social media aspect is changing algorithms and all. But to come to your question about swing states, I can't, who can say who will win? Because like Munawar Hussain Saab pointed out, the polls tell a different story. We saw what happened in India. The voters defied the polls, and that might happen this time. And as Mr. Munawar Hussain pointed out, the new voters and the youth voters are going to make a decisive difference. There is also an initiative that I just came across today about the swing states. It's called Swap Your Vote, and some people have come up with this idea, which has been going on for some weeks now, but I only heard about it today, in which what they are doing is they're saying that this two-party system is ruining America. It has not giving us good options, but we know that a third party can't really come in. And so what they're doing is that they're saying that they're connecting voters in states which are, like pakka for them, like say the democratic states, and they're saying that you can if you vote for the Democrats, in a swing state, I will vote for a third party candidate of your choice in my state, which is going to go Democratic anyway. So that is a novel way of doing that. And I also want to say that this the fear of violence after the elections is very real. The January 6th insurrection, nobody can forget that. It reminds me actually what happened on May 9th in Pakistan 2023, where people refused to accept what's the process. And so it's a very, very difficult situation right now.
Well, of course, democracy is a beautiful process, but incorporating violence into democracy should be shunned everywhere in the world.
Exactly.
Ms. Naela Chohan, I'd like your comments as well when it's coming down to the swing states and the undecided voters. How would you comment on the swing states, and of course, how do you think who's going to have a better chance at wooing those voters?
At this moment, it's difficult to say. The voting has started, and swing states are swing states.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that the population there has a lot of Muslims, a lot of Arabs, even Pakistani. So how are they going to vote? I think the preceding speakers have given good, view of that. At this moment, if you see how it is going, I think that perhaps Democrats are focusing on areas that Republicans did not, like the women's vote, like abortion issues. They are basically working on areas where Republicans were not very clear. So it's really difficult to say how it's going to go.
Right. Dr. Munawar Hussain, concluding remarks. Of course, the polling has started. People are casting their ballots. Your concluding comments.
I would say three swing states are very important. One, Georgia, because it has 11 electoral votes. Second, North Carolina, because of the flood, and traditionally it remains in favor of Republicans. Only 2 times Republicans defeated here, 1976, 2008. And third one is Nevada, because for 40 years it remained a red state. And last one is Michigan, because of Muslim and the Arab vote. And interestingly, one mayor of the Michigan, he joined President Trump, but his 2 councillors, they are supporting Democrats. So very interesting situation.
Right, definitely a lot of interesting things that we're seeing in this election, and of course the change in American politics trends, the different aspects with regards to internet, social media, and of course how we're seeing the American society polarized at the moment, and there's so much going on in America that this makes this election very interesting. With that, I'd like to thank all of our guests, Ms. Naela Chohan, former ambassador, Dr. Munawar Hussain, foreign affairs expert, and Beena Sarwar, editor at Sapan News Network. Thank you all for your time and being part of this conversation. Of course, what happens, and the Americans are at the polling stations, they are casting their ballots, but the developments are to unfold, and we'll keep you updated. See you same time tomorrow. Till then, take care.